Welcome back. You're watching our continuing coverage of the Israel-Hamas war here on Global Lens with me, Neha Khanna. Joining me now is Colonel Miri. She's the Managing Director of the International Institute for Counterterrorism at Rickman University in Israel, joining us live. Thank you so much, ma'am, for speaking to News9 Live. This is a very difficult time for Israel. Ma'am, we are given to understand that so far 900 Israelis have died in these horrific terror attacks. The fears are that the numbers could rise further because the dead are still being counted. And as we speak, more rockets have been fired towards Israel. Can you share with us, ma'am, some details of the present situation?
First of all, thank you for having me as I'm sitting here, and I should say up front, if there's a siren, I will have to leave. Hope that that won't happen. It's been happening a lot over this day. You said 900 people were killed. Neha, 900 people were massacred, were butchered in the most horrific type of terror attack that you can imagine. It is an incomprehensible number. And there's no question in Israel right now that we're talking about 900, and it's more likely 1,000 or 1,100 Israeli civilians inside their towns, their villages, their communities, who were butchered on Saturday by a combined terror attack on 25 to 30 different communities at the same time. In addition, the firing in as rockets, as I said, this is something that has been impacting all of us all over Israel. And right now, where are we? That initial attack took us by surprise. When I say took us by surprise, we're talking strategic surprise. And yes, failure, and most definitely something that we'll talk about. How about in a few months' time? Right now, I'm still fighting a war. Under that strategic surprise, it takes both the military forces, the security forces, the communities themselves. The whole idea of terror is to instill chaos and fear. And they succeeded on that on Saturday, and we are strong and will prevail. So what we've been doing since is systematically and slowly clearing out the terror nests of these horrific, inhumane butchers who came into these towns and villages and made people get up. If they hid in their house, they burnt down the house. When they came out of the house, they butchered them down, and in addition, at the same time, taking in hostages. So we're 4 days into it. As you can see, they put up themselves their own TikTok videos of them murdering and butchering people. We have been, the IDF, systematically clearing out these terror nests. That means systematically in the state of Israel, inside our communities, having to reconquer who we are. And we've been doing that systematically. At this stage on Tuesday, we're already very advanced in that. It isn't something where it's overall and clean. They are terrorists. They are waiting, they are in wait, they're still trying, and individually we will get to them all. At this stage, we're talking about over 1,500 terrorists that have been found and killed inside the state of Israel. And parallel to this, we are attacking heavily, systematically, and clearly the infrastructure of the Hamas terrorist organization inside the Gaza Strip. When we look at this in general, as I say, that aspect of Hamas and the people, I'm a mother of 3, and I absolutely wanted to believe that Hamas had changed its stripes, that it wanted economic benefits for the 2 million people of the Gaza Strip, even though it's a terror organization. I think that we've all had the harshest awakening possible, that this terror organization has not changed its stripes. And right now, what Israel is doing for the first time is we are attacking the Hamas terror infrastructure, which is in the heart of the Gaza Strip, in places where we're telling them up front that we are going to attack the mosque because it has a cache of weapons, the school because it is where the terrorists are trying to hide behind the school or the mosque. We are telling people to leave their homes because we are going to attack the places where the terrorists are hiding. The Hamas terrorists hide behind their own people. So they're using their own people as human shields. They came in and butchered Israelis. And we right now, this isn't retaliation. This is reconquering our own country And this is trying to, as much as possible, eliminate the terror nests, both that have stayed inside Israel and the ones that are in the Gaza Strip. So that's where we are right now, with everybody holding their breath on what will happen with, what can I call it, Hamas's terrorist older brother? Are we allowed to be cynical on TV? And that would be Hezbollah in Lebanon in the north. And there's rising tension, but as of now, that has not opened as an additional front.
All right. I will get to Lebanon and Hezbollah in just a moment. But before that, ma'am, of course, I agree with you 100% that terrorists do not change their stripes. And there is no doubt that these terrorists butchered Israelis. There is no other way of putting it. But ma'am, you talked about hostages. I want to talk about that. Hamas says they have over 100 Israelis who are being held hostage in Gaza as we speak. The number could be upwards of 150. We are told there are many women, children, elderly people amongst them. There could be some senior army officers as well. And Hamas terrorists have threatened to begin executing these hostages one by one and even televise the executions if the strikes come without warning. Israel has said the strikes will continue relentlessly. But ma'am, as you mentioned, Hamas terrorists are known to use even their own people as human shields, and they are holed up in residential areas in Gaza with these Israeli hostages. Are you not concerned that as these strikes continue by Israel, there is a very serious threat to the lives of these hostages? Could they end up as collateral damage?
Now, that's probably the question that if you and I right now were sitting in the Israeli Security Cabinet meeting, if we were sitting around the table, both with the IDF and with all of the security personnel, that both of us would have to answer. So I'm going to say, first of all, sadly, as an Israeli, there are no women around that table. I have to tell you also, and I want to share with our viewers, that I am systematically looking at the camera. I don't want to see all of the visuals that you're showing. It's very hard for me. I've been avoiding all of these visuals because it's too hard for me to contend with, but that's just me. So if I'm not looking into the camera, it's because I can't look at the visuals. Every once in a while, as we think about the hostages themselves, I'm giving you that, it's that prisoner's dilemma. But in this case, it's the Israeli citizens. What do we do now in protecting the citizens of the state of Israel? Is it whatever the number of hostages is? By the way, they're putting out disinformation. They're doing it on purpose. They're taunting. They're haunting. This is part of the terror campaign. It's to make sure that you're scared and I'm scared and that all of us are, and that we succumb to what they want. And I ask you, really? So I want to succumb to what they want so that tomorrow morning they can again do that attack? Now, let's be clear. Go and read right now, not what I say, but listen to two different things. Read the Hamas charter that calls for the annihilation of Israel, and they go out and murder Israelis. And listen on Saturday to the Hamas leader, Mohammed Def, arch-terrorist, who in sending off his arch-terrorists, murderous butchers into Israel, said, and they put this out live themselves afterwards, they put out Mohammed Def, not myself, in which he says, go murder as he did, kill as many people as possible. These people were not killed, they were butchered and tortured in the most horrific way. So do I take into account the hostages? Of course I do. I also have to look at that overall picture, and that is going to be horny dilemma that none of us know what to do with when it comes to hostages. That's why they do it. And so in the meantime, I cannot allow this terror infestation to be my next door neighbor. And when I say my next door neighbor, for years it's been my next door neighbor. And then we talked about it as, you know, this and that. What happened on Saturday is unprecedented in the world. A terrorist organization attacked the state of Israel into the civilian communities and butchered and murdered people. And the hostages themselves right now are, I don't think of them, I could never call them collateral damage. But as I say, that is the balance of what those who are in the decision-making process right now have to make. I think it's the worst job because it's lose-lose no matter what you do.
You know, ma'am, you said that it's so hard for you to even look at these visuals. I am sorry that you have to relive this horror over and over again every time you talk about it, every time you appear on a television channel and talk to a journalist. But this is a story that the world needs to hear, which is why we have you on our channel tonight talking about this. many Israelis have said this was our 9/11. Here in India, we've suffered the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. We know what it is like to be victims of terrorism firsthand. Of course, many have described the attacks in Israel as 9/11 or 26/11 multiplied by 10 times, given the unimaginable scale and the barbarity that's been involved. Now, ma'am, it is an Israel-Hamas war, but some are asking, is it also perhaps an Israel-Iran war by proxy? You mentioned the Hezbollah. They have already been warned, in fact, not to join the offensive, though they have to some extent. There are many who are saying that it is actually Iran that is the puppeteer in this entire scenario, that Hamas could not have done this without funding, without training, without approval, and without the blessings of Iran. Many are even linking it to the fact that ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel were on the mend thanks to the negotiations that were being conducted by the United States. Iran didn't want it, and as an attempt to sabotage that peace agreement, they may have wanted to do this. What is your take?
Iran is a state that we all know sponsors terrorism. It's what we call a state-sponsored terrorism state. It is who they are. But they did not found Hamas. Hamas has its own charter. Hamas founded its own charter against the existence of the state of Israel, and they have called for our annihilation for almost as long as the Iranian revolutionary regime. Hamas never worked with Iran until they felt that Hamas could benefit from Iran's money, as you mentioned, the weapons, as you mentioned. So we shouldn't look at this as being either or. All you have to do is put on together with me, though I don't want to look at it, the supreme leader Khamenei, the Iranian supreme religious leader, who today put out in his voice to the camera, like I'm talking to you, praising these Hamas barbaric attacks. So he's all for it. But Hamas did these attacks. I think that they absolutely did them with coordination with Hezbollah, and perhaps as a prequel to what Hezbollah could do. Hezbollah also is a Lebanese, Arabic-speaking, revolutionary force. It is the largest, it's the 8th largest cache of weapons in the world. It has more weapons than India now, Hezbollah in Lebanon. But I also would not call it only an Iranian proxy, meaning the Hamas are Palestinians. The Hamas as a terror organization is based in the Sunni Palestinian world, in the Islamist jihadi Sunni Palestinian world. And Iran loves to have any additional partner, not necessarily proxy. Do they give more money? Do they try to make sure that things happen their way? All of the world in the last 9 months, Iran has been in a better situation in general. And that has to do with Russia's war on Ukraine and Iran supplying Russia with weapons. It has to do with Iran doing agreements with Saudi Arabia, that has to do with Saudi Arabia. A lot of things go on. Not everything is either or. My bottom line, yes, Iran has involvement. Iran was not there on Saturday. Iran's cruelty is out there towards their own people and as the state sponsor proxies all over the world. But I'm talking about Hamas butcher terrorism, because I, tomorrow morning, still border the Gaza Strip. And now there are 2 million people in the Gaza Strip. They're not Persian speaking. They're not Iranian. They weren't getting Iranian money, by the way. They were getting Qatari money, the Hamas, for the people of the Gaza Strip. So in that complex world that we look at, it isn't just to put the finger on the one, it's to look at it in a broad way, because I need to wake up and understand who are our allies, who really wants to fight against terror, who views terror as terror, not militants, and certainly not the people that Khamenei thinks are wonderful.
Right. Ma'am, as a journalist, it is my job to play the devil's advocate. So I'm going to ask you this question. As we talk about 900 Israelis being butchered, as you said, in these terror attacks by Hamas terrorists, almost 800 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli counter-strikes. And as we know, Gaza is home to some 2.3 million Palestinians. 50% of them are believed to be children. And now Israel is talking about imposing a complete siege, which would mean no food, no water, no power, no fuel. There are many, ma'am, who are asking today that should 2.3 million Palestinians be either starved to death or bombed to punish Hamas for its terror acts? What would you say to those people who are making that argument?
I'm glad that you said this, that this was based on your being a devil's advocate. Now, there's no moral equivalency. I challenge any one of you in the world, media worldwide, to show me once, ever, that Israel has ever targeted intentionally civilians. We are targeting intentionally Hamas sites, Hamas cache of weapons. They've been firing thousands of rockets at us. Those are coming out of the Gaza Strip. They sent out thousands of fighters against us. They're coming out of, those terrorists are coming out of the Gaza Strip. They train somewhere. They have cache of weapons somewhere. That's what we're targeting. Hamas, in the most worst way, are using their own people as human shields. And as I said before, one of the main ways that Hamas fooled us is because we wanted to believe that they changed. Because over the last 2 years, we had growing numbers of Palestinian workers coming to Israel. Last week, in that sense, 18,000 Palestinian workers from the Gaza Strip were coming in every day. The number itself has gone up to 25,000. We're talking about things that we said with Hamas, the terror organization, no, we're not going to do that. So this is not against the Palestinian people. This is against the Hamas, who have ruled over the Gaza Strip from 2007. Who have hoodwinked us all into thinking that maybe they would be a sovereign, that maybe they would provide for their people, that maybe they would do so. And as I said before, we have been giving early warning against the different sites. We call them before and say, before the buildings that you see destroyed, get out of the building. It's a Hamas building. Leave it before we destroy it. And if you look right now, the United Nations Relief and Welfare Agency for the Palestinian refugees, UNRWA, who do work on the ground that I cannot imagine, as you said, over 2 million people. People are going into the UNRWA sites. We haven't attacked there. We haven't attacked any civilians ever. We are attacking Hamas sites, and Hamas are using the civilians in the most butchering way, their own people.
They are, and this is just such a vicious cycle. Final question, ma'am, before we let you go. I know you said that you don't perhaps right now want to focus on the massive intelligence failure that this entailed, that the time will come to examine that issue. But what do you think has been the biggest lesson for Israel in this unspeakable tragedy?
Now, it's a horrible lesson. Because I'm Miri, and I've spoken on Indian TV, and I've spoken around the world, and I've always supported a two-state resolution, and I've always said, 2 states, I don't want a terror organization to take over that state. And the attack on Saturday, that again, I'm avoiding the visuals of what are in front of me right now, the attack on Saturday are going to make us so much more impossible to arrive at a resolution with the Palestinian people, who people deserve a better future. Hamas terrorists deserve to be annihilated. And I don't know how to go in between those. So in that sense, I think that looking into the future right now, this is going to make us Israelis, the ones who want to see and see with my own eyes. I'm a mother and I see people and I want people to be people. It's going to be really hard for me to find a way to compromise when I don't look at the pictures that you're showing right now of the horrific butchery of Hamas terrorists that came into the state of Israel on Saturday and butchered peoples in their homes and in their communities. This isn't in any of the disputed areas. This isn't about the Israeli-Palestinian. This is in the heart of Israel that happens to be adjacent to the Gaza Strip. It tears my heart apart, and I just want to hope that we'll do better.
Well, this has been heart-wrenching for even the rest of the world to watch, ma'am. I can tell you that. And there can be no remote justification for this kind of terrorism, the butchery and the barbarism that has been on display. And as India's Prime Minister has told your Prime Minister, the people of India stand firmly with the people of Israel in this difficult hour. On that note, thank you so much, Colonel Miri, for speaking to News 9 Live. We really appreciate, ma'am, your time and perspective. And our thoughts
Thank
and
you
prayers
for
are with
having
your
me.
country.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for this amazing support that we feel from India. It really means a lot for us.
It's wonderful, ma'am, to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have on this edition of Global Lens. If you have been, thanks so much for watching.
China won't let us rest easy on our borders, but they will keep flooding